Signatures that they've gathered, they have been resolute, they've been here in hail, rain and snow, and one of the great drivers of that movement, Mr. Diarmuid Breatnach. Diarmuid.
Great to see the women acknowledged in the struggle, often passed over, but we need to remember that without them we could not have had the struggle that we had. And this is history. Is one of the driving forces that brings us here today. Our history, centuries of resistance to invaders. The descendants of some of those invaders later joined us in resistance too, in battle, in victory, in defeat, and yes, on gallows and in front of firing squads too. My own family name, Breatnach or Walsh, for example, tells you that on one side of our family at least we're descended from Norman invaders. But we joined the indigenous Irish against Cromwell, and when his forces took our castle in Carrickmines, they slaughtered around 300 of us there. Let us not forget that every single leader of the United Irishmen was a descendant of a colonist or a settler. Later, Thomas Davison's father was Welsh, Patrick Pearse is English. Our rulers in the past would like to remove that history of resistance from us, but they know they can't do that. However, they can make it a boring subject in school. They can reduce it to academic arguments. They can throw it into confusion, and they can destroy its monuments. They can do all that, and they do, brothers and sisters, they do. They've tried to make us to believe that to fight in an imperialist war is the same as fighting for freedom, for equality or justice. They've tried to make us think that the Dublin Metropolitan Police, those who battled strikers, striking workers and protesters to death in 1913 and the Cumann woman in 1914 should be commemorated alongside those who fought for justice. They've tried to make us think that those who rose for freedom in 1916 against the biggest empire the world has ever known should be commemorated alongside those who served in a foreign army to shoot down those freedom fighters. They tried. Oh, how they tried, but they did not succeed. Another reason we are gathered here today is the issue of democracy. This state, we are told, is a democratic one. I understand a democracy to be one where the will of the people rules supreme. I do not understand it to be one where the will of the people and their needs can be routinely ignored. I do not understand a democracy to be one where a handful of gum-bean capitalists can appropriate our resources, public services and historical monuments and sell them on to their friends or foreign vultures and speculators. We, trying to save Moore Street from demolition, have gone through the democratic processes. We have lobbied politicians who gave us promises they reneged on. We've lobbied Dublin city councillors who voted to conserve this monument, but they've been ignored. We have participated in forums and market expert groups, and their decisions and recommendations have also been ignored. We have collected hundreds of thousands of signatures, presented them to the Minister of Heritage's group and to 4 Lord Mayors, but it seems they didn't matter. What did matter, apparently, was that a property speculator saw the monument only as a place from which to make a profit. So Dublin Council's Chief Planning Officer grants that foreign speculator and the Irish one before him permission to go ahead, demolish more or less what he wants and make his profit, with the government backing him up. Hammerson has only, this is the speculator that wants to demolish this, has only 3 executive directors, and we have at least 380,000 signatures. I've never been great at maths at school, but even I can figure out from those statistics that to the Irish government and DCC's planning department, a single Hammerson executive director overvotes 180,000 people, ordinary people, people like you and me. What we want doesn't matter against what the speculator wants. That is not any kind of democracy as I understand the word. Through the long years of this campaign, there have been some victories. 4 buildings were declared a national monument in 2017. The demolition of 3 buildings were prevented in 2016 by an occupation of 6 days and a later blockade of 6 weeks. A High Court judge declared the whole area a national monument that same year, although that was overturned by a government minister the following year. On Thursday this week, Dublin City Council finally, after over 3 years formally promising us without result, finally erected a signpost on this street for the O'Rahilly monument around the corner. But those victories are not enough, and we've also seen defeats. What keeps campaigners going over so many years, those who don't drop out along the way? It's faith, I think. People have different kinds of faith. Some have faith in an extraterrestrial force. Some have strong faith in themselves. Some even have faith in some political party. Me, I don't have faith in any extraterrestrial force, and I long ago lost faith in political parties, which go back on their promises when they get into government or even along the way there. I don't even have a huge amount of faith in myself because I understand my limitations and recognise my mistakes. But I do have faith in history, in what it teaches us. I have faith in people around the world who struggle for justice. I have faith in the people here that have never, in even one generation, failed to show resistance to occupation, oppression and resistance and repression. Faith in the people who organised so many risings and fought the betrayal of all they had fought for. I have faith in the people that fairly recently prevented the privatisation of our water and us having to pay a third water charge. I have faith in you, brothers and sisters. I have faith that you will take whatever steps are necessary to prevent the desecration of our monument and the destruction of the street market planned by a handful of people running a property speculation company, assisted by a handful of people in Dublin City Council and government. Faith, they say, can move mountains. You can certainly move a government. Have faith in yourselves. You can move much more than a mountain. You can move a whole country. My faith is in you and the ordinary people. I hope you have as much faith in yourselves.
You have an unexpected treat here from somebody that turned up to support the campaign. That's a long-term